free. And more, I saw, excuse me, many more people my age coming into, and they realized, okay, so we can really push these kids without dehumanizing ourselves, and I think it's been a great thing. And for me, with 4 daughters on the women's game, that's been a huge thing. It's a lot easier, or I guess let's this way, it's a lot more acceptable, say 5-10 years ago, for women to show some empathy in a very competitive situation than for men, because there were still too many stereotypes that we were clinging to. And I think women have really paved the way for a lot of guys to say, well, look, she's pretty strict. She's just not a jerk, in this case. And say, oh, they're getting results. And I think it's really done a lot for sports in general, including when a lot of men now have gone to coaching the women's game, because the women are so competitive. They're so fast and agile, playing, without any restrictions. Those stereotypes are long gone. That there is a good mix of personalities that's doing an awful lot. So let me ask you this: what the coaches that you've had now, just youth through college, you've mentioned the ones you've had at the collegiate level, but what about those people you've just talked to in passing, or you can recall? Are there any that also, really did something for you, even if you've forgotten their names, something that really opened you up to something special?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I grew up, always kind of wanting more. And, my family always was a big believer in, teaching me, like, it was like, if I did something, it's like, okay, sweetheart, that's great, but you can do better. Right. And it wasn't, in a rude way or in a nasty way or anything like that, or overly pushy, but it's like, okay, Mom, I did really good at basketball camp. I scored, I don't know how many points. Well, sweetheart, you can do more than that. Like, you can do better. How can you be better? And when I played AAU basketball, the first year I started doing that, I had a coach who, he saw a lot of potential in me, but I was extremely raw. And he was very upfront with my family about it, and was like, look, she's needs a lot of work, but she's really good. Like, she can be good. And I mean, he would push us every day. And I'm talking, I was probably absolutely in phenomenal shape at this point. And I think I might have been maybe 12, probably a little bit younger. And we would do free throws, and we would run suicides for everyone missed, like those kinds of things. But he taught me so much more about pushing yourself, right? And some people could see that as a negative, but I think that, he really told me, like, he really taught me how to push past, like, I don't want to say a boundary that, like, you mentally set for yourself, but I guess that's kind of the best way to put it. It was like, you're capable of more. If I need to work on something, he's like, Rachel, I worked on my layups. I was terrible with my left hand. And he's like, we're going to set up a chair, and you're literally going to practice driving your leg up and shooting, right? Because we were using the gym, actually, where I went to middle school and high school. And he's like, this is what you're going to do. And I would do it for probably, I kid you not, 35 minutes every practice. We'd practice 2 to 3 times a week. And that would be something that I would do to get better. And I did. I got better. And that was something that, he taught me from a very early age, from a different perspective of my family, that when you work at something for a lot, either you're putting yourself through a wall for no reason, or you're going to get better and you're chipping away. Right. And that's, everything had a purpose that we did. And, some people could see it as a little crazy, that, I don't know, is like what, 10 or 11-year-olds that were running suicides for, free throws missed at the end of practice kind of thing. But we worked hard and we did well. And I think that that's, it's an intriguing look. But the things that, Coach Matt taught me, were with me through everything I experienced. He, from a very early age, was like, you bend over, you're tired. If you put your hands on your hips, you're tired. If you sit, you're tired. If you lean against a wall, it looks like you're tired. When it looks like you're tired to somebody else, guess what? You are tired. Doesn't matter if you physically are or not, you're giving off the signs that you are. You look lazy. Doesn't matter if you are lazy or not, but you look it. And those are the kinds of things I keep in mind now. I'm like, oh, am I slouching? Are my hands on my hips? Do I look tired? And when I'd go to countless tryouts, whether it's, whether it was U19 stuff for club, or even now as a coach, and when I watch kids, and those are the kinds of things I see. I'm like, oh, her hands are on her hips. She's probably tired. Or she's slouched over. She's tired. She's leaning on her stick. She's tired. Those kinds of things. So as crazy as it is, that kind of stuff, it, I guess it trickles down. It stays with you.
Well, it sounds like he connected with you because, some people will say, well, we're going to go with the negative reinforcement. That only works if the kids have bought into you. And I don't do that in mine. I don't have a problem when people do it if the kids believe in the coach and they've set that relationship up, because otherwise it's just it's a downward spiral at that point. It only lasts as long as the threat is there. They won't thrive without the threat that they're trying to avoid. So how did that coach, say it was Coach Matt?
Yes.
How did he connect with you all so that, and I had a coach like that actually at age 13 for basketball. We all connected and we ran for basketball, and we took pride in that. In fact, those of us in that junior high that went on to the same high school, two of us, he and I, for the next 2 years while we played at the JV level, he and I took pride in beating every starter on the suicides, because that was something he and I had been doing since we were in 7th grade together. And we just said, if there's one thing we're going to do, we're going to win all these, and we're going to push the whole team forward. So we never felt that was torturous, but I've seen it used badly. What did Coach Matt do to get you all to buy into that as an investment as opposed to a punishment?
Well, I think the big thing with AAU basketball is it's so competitive, and he would tell us every day, and he's like, look, I selected all of you. I could have chose somebody else, but I didn't. I chose all the people here, and you all bring something to the table. And, he pushed you, and sometimes it was extremely uncomfortable, right, to grow. But at the end of the day, I don't remember specifics exactly, but, there's a saying, like, you'll forget what somebody says, but you'll never forget how they made you feel.
Right.
And some days were extremely tough, but, what I can remember from him was that, he was somebody that, as a coach, he was the first time that wasn't a family member coaching me, I'll say that instilled the fact of doing extra work. He was very big on, well, what basketball did you watch this weekend? And, what did you watch this week? And if somebody said that they watched the NBA, he's like, why didn't you watch the WNBA? My response to him was, like, I would go and I'd watch, like, basketball skill videos. And he's like, watch a game. You're going to learn from a game. You're going to learn from skill stuff, sure, but you're going to learn from a game. Watch a game. Do extra work. And I was like, well, I don't have time, right? And school was a lot at that point. I was in an extremely competitive middle school and high school, and we'd have tons of work after school. And I would also do AAU and, after school sports and all those kinds of things. And he's like, at this point, if you want to be better, you got to make that extra work. You have to make that time. And I was 11 or 12 at that point. So, those are the kinds of things that he got you to buy in, and not just buy in at the time you were there, but buy in completely, and he's somebody where I'm like, this is awesome. I want to play more competitive sports. And I think, like, looking back is, he primed me for sports in general and what it takes, and not just sports, but life.
Well, and that's what coaches do. Instructors are very talented, very valuable people in the process. They can teach you how to do something. But when you get a coach, and yes, they're instructing, but when they're coaching, they're giving you, again, an ability that will translate not to just a different sport, but to a whole different period in your life. It'll be on the job. And that's why I added this to my career path, because I was seeing that there were so many people, both, a generation above me and below me, that didn't get what they should have out of sports. It didn't matter whether they were athletic or not. It just had to do with they didn't know how to persevere with a smile. Like, oh, this is going to stink, but let's do this. This is tough. This is going to hurt, but you know what? I'm kind of excited about that. Let's get into this. And I think back to our club advisor. He was a Baltimore guy. Actually, he was one of the goalies in the 40s at Gilman High School. He was one of them that was there when those of you know lacrosse, the Gilman clear, basically the long clear. He was one of those guys, and he's a professor at the university. And I remember him getting mad one time. And he was very much about, we all brought our books on every road trip, and but he got mad when people weren't coming to class because of midterms and finals. And I was a little bit stunned that he had said that. And his point was the whole point of this being coming out here with nobody to watch, you're paying out of your pocket, is to manage your time. He's like, I don't want you to miss practice. I don't want your grades to suffer, but you've got to figure out how to make this work. And it is a huge deal at any level. And I think that, 12 is not too old to start it if a coach can connect. And I think that's a gift and a responsibility to know how far you can push a kid at each age, because without the connection, it can be a bit disastrous, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And, going off into more people a little bit that have helped me on my journey, I'll say that, to be honest, there's so many. And like I said before, everybody, you meet has something to teach you. But I've had my club lacrosse coaches who believed in me and honestly, gave me a shot when I started going into my sophomore year in high school, which, looking back now, it's like, oh God, you started club going into your sophomore year. That's basically unheard of, but I loved it and I wanted to get better. And, I had an awesome goalie coach that would work with me every, I want to say probably, a couple Saturdays. And I don't remember exactly how many times, but she believed in me and got me better and made me feel confident in myself. And, I had 3 awesome high school lacrosse coaches. One played college lacrosse at Notre Dame. The other one, he played at Cortland. And the other one was a head coach at Bucknell before she came and she coached me. And all 3 of them had different lessons to teach me. But something that really, struck with me was probably my coach, Coach Jess, who she coached at Bucknell, and she, before she coached at Holy Child. And I went up to her one day. She would always push me a lot harder than everybody else. And I went up to her, and I was like, why are you pushing me so hard? Because it was a lot. And, and she's like, Rachel, you want to know why I'm pushing you this hard? I'm pushing you this hard because where do you want to go? She's like, what do you want? What are your goals? And I was like, well, I want to play in college. She's like, yeah, I know that. She's like, it was a rhetorical question. I know. She's like, I know what you want. I'm trying to show you exactly what's necessary to get there. She's like, this is what's going to happen. Right. And so she pushed me and pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And when I got to college, I was ready for that, and when I got to UMass, a lot of girls quit because they didn't want to, or they moved on to different programs because it wasn't the right fit for them. And I remember people like, Rachel, why do you want to stay at UMass? I was like, because I love the game. And they're like, you're not bothered by all the running or, because we ran a lot my freshman year. Or at least it seemed that way, definitely as a freshman. And, right. And to me, I was like, I love it. Like, I don't love the running, but I love the game. And that's something that Jess really instilled in me. You know, and my first coach in high school, Abby, did as well. You know, I remember I went